Hello everyone. Welcome to today's video, where you'll be the judge for the stories we bring for you. Case 1. Am I the bad person for hiding my pregnancy from my husband and my mother-in-law? I have been married to my husband for 3 years. My husband, I will call him Joel, and I met in college and got married very young. We have both always dreamed of having a big family, and I have always wanted to be a stay-at-home mother. Joel and his mom have always been close. But it wasn't until recently that I noticed how unsettling their relationship truly is. For starters, Joel's mom, I will call her Amy, has always been insanely protective over him. Although he is fully an adult man, Amy only refers to Joel as "Hey baby boy." Amy insisted on having the first dance with Joel at our wedding, and because she was paying for most of it, I let her have that but put my foot down when she suggested that she should wear a cream-colored dress as mother of the groom. Amy lives in our neighborhood and has made a habit of showing up unannounced and inviting herself into all aspects of our lives. A few months ago, I found out that I was pregnant with our first baby, but just a few months in, I tragically lost the pregnancy. Before the miscarriage, Joel and I had been over the moon. Amy was so excited to be a grandmother, but some of her actions made me uncomfortable and angry. For starters, she insisted that she come to all of the appointments for the baby. When we first heard our baby's heartbeat, she jumped up out of her chair and snatched Joel's hands and began to cry with excitement. Joel threw his arms around her, pointing out her grandbaby's heartbeat, while I was left sitting there on my own. Although it was still early in the pregnancy, Amy proposed throwing her own grandbaby shower in order to get supplies for the baby to be kept at her house. I tried to shut this down, but Joel once again defended his mom. When I felt the first kicks and movement, she ran over and nearly shoved my hand out of the way to try and feel. My final straw was after I lost the baby. I was devastated. Luckily, Amy was not over when I began noticing issues, and Joel and I were able to go to the hospital alone. But after calling his mom to tell her what was happening, Amy showed up at the hospital and cried so loudly Joel had to escort her out of the hospital and comfort her in her car. Once again, I was left there alone. This broke me. Although Joel has apologized profusely and said that he regrets leaving me, I have had a hard time finding forgiveness for that moment. I have to emphasize, other than his unusual relationship with his mother, our relationship has been nearly perfect. After the miscarriage, though, I started sleeping in the guest room and taking more time for myself to sort out my thoughts and decide where to go from here. Everything was fine until a few months ago. I had a few too many glasses of wine at a friend's wedding and ended up spending the night back in our main bedroom. I started to notice the same familiar changes in my body from my first pregnancy, which terrified me. I finally took a test and stared at the little plus in disbelief. Although I want to be a mother more than anything, I couldn't help but still feel the same feelings from my last pregnancy. Maybe it was the wrong choice, but I chose not to tell Joel right then. I booked an appointment and went to the doctor and found out that I was about 6 weeks pregnant already. This is where I may be the asshole. That was about 3 months ago, and I still have not told Joel. I am now 18 weeks pregnant and just starting showing more, and I have taken to just wearing big sweatshirts and baggy clothes around the house. I have loved being pregnant and not having to share the spotlight with Amy. This week, I felt the first little flutters of the baby moving and didn't have to share it with anybody else. In just a few weeks, I can learn his or her gender and not risk having to throw a grandbaby gender reveal for my MIL. Maybe most importantly, God forbid anything were to happen to the pregnancy again, I would rather handle it alone than have to deal with consoling her. But now, I don't know where to go from here. Obviously, I can only keep this up for so long. But how do I explain to Joel that I have been hiding the pregnancy from him for months? Should I just run away and start a new life? Mostly kidding. Or am I already in too deep, so I might as well just keep hiding it for as long as possible and not have to share my moment with anyone else? I love my husband and I don't want to leave him, but I don't know how I can save the situation and our marriage. Let us have your verdict down in the comment section, and let's move on to the second case. Case 2. Would I be the bad person if I called out my mother-in-law for literally putting my husband last? To sum up the story, my MIL was coming to visit under the guise of visiting my husband because he was hit by a car 3 weeks ago and his mother desperately wanted to see him. But that was a ruse, and she spent the whole first day with my junkie BIL. and I was waiting until we finally saw her to confront her about putting my husband last behind a piece of shit who doesn't deserve anyone's respect, as my husband is extremely depressed and has been having emotional breakdowns at the slightest thing. And this is killing him because he just wants his mom to be there for him, and she started ghosting him instead. Well, here's what happened. Yesterday, my husband and I waited all day for my MIL to call when she was going to come over to say hi. I had to text her at 1 p.m. because I was starting to get really pissed off she hasn't said anything yet, and her response led to me punching a wall without thinking. She said that I was assuming her and her partner, were out to lunch with BIL, and their daughter, who they got to have a surprise visitation day with. She said after lunch, when my niece went home at 3 p.m., she would come see us. I was furious, but whatever. My husband was clearly distraught, but again playing it off. Well, eventually around 5:30 p.m. we get a call from my MIL saying she's coming over. Well, finally, we made a plan for her to come pick us up so we could get pizza for dinner. We can't drive. And I laid out a whole idea my husband came up with to get some pizza, go see a movie, and maybe go play some pool afterwards because that's a pastime his mother loves. Well, nope. MIL said she needs to return to BIL's house, so she'll be picking us up to get pizza. And then we're gonna go see BIL and SIL afterwards. Oh, of course. So we went with that plan for the sake of not starting an argument. When she showed up, she was nice enough to come up to our apartment to say hi to my dad who lives with us, but wanted to leave right away. The only reason we didn't was because my MIL brought her sister, K60F, who hasn't lived in the area or even visited for 30 years, but apparently came with Mil-T-O, see my husband specifically. She sat with my dad asking a bunch of questions, was looking through all the hospital paperwork and accident reports, etc. Honestly, stuff his own mother should have been doing, but wasn't, and was instead just chatting with my dad and trying to scoot everyone out the door. After a while we left and got pizza, and Emile took us to BIL's place. We spent 2 hours sitting there talking about BIL and how awful his life is. He quit his job because it sucks. His car is broken again. He wants this and that but can't get it because everyone keeps fighting him. Yada yada. Meanwhile, my husband was getting sicker and sicker looking, and Kay and I were constantly bugging him to sit or drink something, or even get ready to go to the hospital because he didn't look good at all and he was starting to get confused by stuff. Huge red flag. Now here's where everything spiraled. Kay suggested that maybe we take my husband home at least because he was starting to sway in his seat, and she was guessing maybe he was just tired. My SIL, though, started freaking out saying we need to call an ambulance. See, my SIL had a severe traumatic brain bleed happen years ago due to circumstances, and she is also a super empath. According to her, she could sense something was super wrong, and that my husband needed to be seen right away without delay. Now my husband usually would be refusing viciously at this point. He hates hospitals, and especially hates ambulances, but he wasn't saying anything. So I knew something was wrong, and starting making the call. My MIL and BIL seemed maybe a little worried, but they kept playing it off saying, Ace probably just tired. He probably needs to rest. It wasn't until my husband threw up all over the floor that they got the fucking picture. I sat and handled the phone call while Kay and my SIL tended to my husband. Now I don't know what happened because my back was turned when I was on the phone, but the next second, I hear a wicked loud yelp, and then the sound of crashing glass. Then lots of yelling. According to Kay, what happened was my SIL went to hold my husband's head as he was starting to go limp, so they were transferring him to a laying position, and my SIL ended up taking his head and laying it on her lap because their floor is hardwood, and she was afraid he'd hit his head. Totally valid worry, and I thank her for it. My stupid BIL didn't like that though, and without thinking about anyone but himself, grabbed my SIL by the hair, picked her up by it. She's extremely small, so it's very easy, and threw her into their coffee table. Multiple things happened at once, and I can still see it in my mind eye in slow mo. First, my husband's head had apparently dropped to the ground, and Kay wasn't close enough to catch him, so he ended up hitting his head. At this point I had turned around and saw SIL in a bloody pile of glass, Emile holding BIL back from trying to attack SIL, while my husband was having a full grand mal seizure on the floor beside them about to get stepped on. Panic doesn't even begin to describe the feeling I had. even though unfortunate, due to me having epilepsy. I understand and know seizure protocol. I was in a panic noting the time and all that jazz. I didn't even notice the EMTs and police show up. Apparently they heard the crash on the phone and assumed to send police as well. The ambulance scooped my husband when his seizure luckily stopped and rushed him to our chosen hospital, and scooped my SIL off with my MIL to go to a separate hospital closer by. The one my husband was brought to is a level 4 trauma center and is better equipped. Kay drove behind us in the ambulance because apparently she's acting mother now, which at this point I don't even care about anymore. So now my shitty BIL is in the police station and has finally been arrested for his actions. Not sure if my SIL will continue with that, as this is not their first rodeo. Nor do I know what will happen with my niece now. My MIL is staying with my SIL, so she's not alone. But she should really be swapped with Kay. And even Kay thinks so too. I asked Kay what's been going on with MIL, and why lie and pull such a ruse, and she said she has no idea what's going on. But something does seem strange, as this is totally outside of MIL's normal behavior. We don't suspect she's using drugs, as she has pretty severe heart problems, but something's definitely up. But that doesn't matter at all to me right now. I did end up saying something to my MIL over the phone last night. I, as calmly as possible, just let her know how my husband has been taking her sudden neglect, and told her hopefully this is a wake-up call to stop putting all her time, care, and attention to a wife-beating piece of crap. She's actually his longtime girlfriend, but Kay still stands. Her response was stuttering, and then silence. She's supposed to be here in half an hour, but now I don't even know if that's going to be a thing, because supposedly BIL is going to be released sometime this morning on bail, so I assume she'll run off to be with him instead. SIL said no matter what, she'll walk here if she has to. Concerning my husband, he was brought straight past the ER, directly to ICU, after being shoved through a CT scan. They said he has had a rebleed, and it was grown 2 centimeters more than it was before, putting a lot more pressure on his brain. Hence the seizure. I knew it was a risk, but it's awful to watch your universe convulse uncontrollably. I know my husband watches it happen to me constantly, but it's very surreal being on the other end of the situation. We're currently waiting for any news other than bad news, because so far it's been nothing but bad news. And if the bleed doesn't stop, they have to fly him to the big city nearby, to one of the bigger hospitals, to be prepped or surgery. I am freaking the fuck out, but no, there's nothing I can really do at this point but be here for him and divulge every bit of info anyone might ever need about him. I don't want my husband to die. If he dies, I literally won't be able to continue living in this world. So hopefully he lives, and his mother comes to fucking see him. What do the members of the jury think? Is he the AH in this story? Express your verdict down in the comment section. The top comment will be posted on next week's video. Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe. In life, we may run, but we can't hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.